So how long do these discovery sessions actually take? Well, to review that, an hour with subject matter experts for a single specific business process. Well, what kind of facility do you need? What kind of room do you need? Well, any kind of room will do as long as you have clear wall space. Here's a picture here. Let me give you a larger shot of that. Here's a picture here of a discovery session. And this, I know that this was a very, very large project. By the time it was all said and done, I think we were well over 100 events. Now that's a big project. The likelihood of you working on a project with 100 plus events is you're not going to do too many of those. But you can see here that this is just a boardroom. This person here is a co-pilot. He's recording things, keeping track of things. He understands this approach to business systems analysis. Here we have a subject matter expert, as we have here and as we have here. We actually have an observer. You'll notice that he's sitting tight against the wall. And as an observer, they have an option of using duct tape or not. Okay? And he chose to not use the duct tape and was very good about that. But the wall is right here. It's not a large room at all. But notice that we have uncluttered wall space. And this is very interesting because if you look very closely at that clock, it says it's 20 minutes after 8 in the morning. So you can see that people are a little bit tired. They're not really going yet. This started at 8 o'clock, I would expect. But they sat in there for an hour, followed by an hour, followed by an hour, because they were doing it consecutively. They wanted to get the work done really, really fast. And the fastest way, of course, is to do it 1 hour after another with the different subject matter experts. You can platoon them, or if they're the same people, you can make them really tired at the end of the day. And that's what happens. One of the things that we strongly suggest is that using these acetate sheets, these Klingon sheets, as we call them, put them up on the wall so the subject matter experts can refer to them in their discussions. We found that to be extremely useful. Rather than just dealing with one and then putting it away, keep it up on the wall so people can see it. But a small room is that's appropriate for the number of people that you're going to have in that room is what you should be doing. Here's another small room. This one here is a project scope blitz, and you'll see this is a co-pilot in this case. This fellow here is actually a pilot, a very, very good analyst. We'll see another photo of him in a minute. And right next to him, you can't see it right now, but you can see the screen of his computer, is another co-pilot as we go through a project scope blitz. And there's the sheriff as well. And there was a justice project. Here we have another room full of many, many people. You can see here, this is a very large discovery session. This was a detailed discovery session going through the specifics of the business process. Now, rarely do you have this many people in the room for a specific business process. But sometimes it happens. This was an environment type of project. And there were lots of interested people, lots of biologists and other people involved in that. And it's very doable. And it's a lot better to have everybody in the room at the same time than to even try to conduct traditional interviews. Traditional interviews are interesting, but they take a lot of time, and they're often not as productive as they could be. So you don't want to go there if at all possible. The best way of doing this is to have a lot of people in the room. Here we have the fellow who's a co-pilot, and the other picture is piloting as an analyst here. And you can see he's working on one of the business process models. And you'll see here he's directly working now on the business rules table. Again, just a normal room. Here you have another one. And you'll see that there's several of these diagrams up on the wall. And this fellow here, a very, very good analyst, is working on a specific item. and the business rules table. Now, sometimes people tell me, oh, my subject matter experts would never understand that table. Yes, they will. There's just no issue. Subject matter experts are just as smart as everybody else, after all. They understand their business, and they understand how this table works as soon as you give them an opportunity to understand it. I mean, they can understand the questions, and they understand the shorthand, the ones and the ends and the zeros, meaning never, that you use there as well. So there's just simply no issue about that. And for those of us who practice this, such as this fellow here, we've found that it works just fine. Here you have a picture. Again, you see lots of these up on the wall. And here we have 3 subject matter experts talking to an analyst. You'll notice that they're focusing in not on the process model itself, but they're focusing in on the business rules table and asking a question about one of the cells that was queried and then answered. And they're coming back to it, and we're saying, in fact, what did this really mean? What did we mean by that? And it's very, very effective with the subject matter experts. So, keys to success. Well, there's a whole lot of tips and techniques for discovery sessions in part 7 of this textbook. There's a lot of stuff in there based on real projects in terms of things that really work well and a couple of things that don't work very well at all. But the whole idea is to get everybody to participate actively by asking them questions and drawing them out. There are some people who will never participate actively, and it's not your responsibility as an analyst to force anybody to talk or contribute. We have found in our experience in our organization that given an opportunity to participate based on questions asked that are not compounded and complex, but closed-ended, simple questions, that people will contribute. Even those shy, wallflower type people will absolutely contribute. So don't be worried about those people who are not participating, because they will be given an opportunity. As an analyst, we have to be unbiased. We have to be neutral on the actual requirements. We have to avoid saying things like, oh, really? Because everybody knows that you're saying that can't quite be right. So, and if somebody starts talking about how something should be done, you say, okay, I understand. And as an analyst, you've got to distill the how from the what, so you can focus on what the requirement is. But you don't have to debate with them how things could be done. All you have to do is say, oh, great, it sounds like a fantastic idea. And just move on from there. It's like that ubiquitous, I understand. Okay? Stay focused at all the time. Okay? And let's go back over here just for a moment. When you're going through these business process diagrams and writing the narratives, and particularly when you get into the business rules table, somebody will come up with something else to talk about that's remotely or directly related to it. And it could lead to another event. Certainly you're going to find an event whenever you get that zero, meaning never answer in the cell. The only question then is whether or not that event is something you want to keep track of, in which case you add it to your list, your parking lot of events, or see if it's already been handled in what you've already done. But stay focused. When you add something to your list, don't go there. Don't spend much time at all talking about this other thing that's come up. Stay focused on what you're working on. The business process diagram that you're working on is very important. I have seen some good analysts go off the cliff because they didn't stay focused. You have to stay focused. You got to do it in such a way that you're not telling your subject matter expert that you're not going to talk about something. And the best way of letting the subject matter experts know that you're paying attention is to put it up on one of these acetate sheets or on a whiteboard or whatever you're using. Here we have an event list as a parking lot. You can have a parking lot for anything you like. And when something comes up, let them see what you hear. And it's very important that when they say something, that you don't just say, okay, and move on, because typically they'll say, well, I've seen that before, you're ignoring me again. So put it on one of these sheets in the parking lot, that way they see what you hear and they know you're keeping track. And that's a very, very important aspect of it. Don't judge their answers. There are times when somebody says something, and in our own mind we might say, well, that's not a particularly good way of doing things. But typically we're thinking about how something is done. And the analysis isn't about how it's done, good or bad, it's about what's required to be done. So don't be judgmental about the stuff they come up with. It could be really old-time thinking in terms of how it's done, or it could be really advanced thinking in terms of how it could be done. Just listen to it and say, I understand. And if necessary, you can make a note on one of these parking lot sheets. But don't judge their answers or comments, because that's not Yemna's role at this time during the business systems analysis. That's a solution issue, not an analysis, requirements analysis issue. Try to use the client's, the subject matter expert's terminology. Stay far, far away from any kind of technobabble that would be technobabble in their minds. Really use their terms. That makes them feel good. Try to speak clearly. Smile when you're working with them, and then smile again, because it can sometimes be a challenging exercise for them to spend an hour so focused on a business process without looking at a solution, that you want to make it enjoyable. You want to make sure that you have some fun with it. It's that theory about a spoonful of sugar sort of thing. Makes things a little more interesting. And of course, the business requirements documents, you want to be able to issue interim documents. Now, there's many ways of doing that. Just to talk for a moment about how to do it. Of course, you can issue things in the conventional way, piece of paper, a booklet out there. You can put it online on a private intranet, but you can also have a wiki. For those of you who are familiar with wikis, you can create a project wiki. And after the project has been implemented, that can be a business area wiki as well. And it can be their responsibility to maintain that. But it's a very, very good way of getting them thoroughly involved. So give that some thought as well.